Thank you, Pat. I want to say thank you to the City of McGee, the Chamber of Commerce for honoring our veterans. I don't think we've done this yet. If you're a veteran, please stand. If you're on active duty, please stand. Guys in the back. Thank you for that round of applause for our veterans. You know, today we're here to honor America's veterans. The word veteran is derived from the Latin word vetus, meaning old or having great experience. As veterans, we share a unique experience that most Americans do not. The experiences that we have collectively shared in the military are special. However, most veterans, myself included, never think of ourselves as special. In 1983, former President Ronald Reagan visited my old stomping ground, the demilitarized zone in Korea. He spoke with the troops from my old unit while they guarded the American sector of the demilitarized zone. Now, the DMZ is a 160-mile long, 2.5-mile wide area that separates the North Koreans from the South Koreans. It's filled with landmines. It's patrolled on both sides. The patrols are live. They have live ammo and live explosives. Over the past 50, 60 years, 150 soldiers have been killed inside the DMZ patrolling. The soldiers of the DMZ are referred to as the most combat-ready forces in the United States Army during times of peace. And I'm proud to have been stationed on the DMZ. President Reagan was reportedly asked by a young sergeant, "Mr. President, we keep hearing that the North Koreans are preparing to attack again. Is that true?" Now, Reagan, being the great speaker that he was, probably smiled, gave him a little wink, and answered, "Let them try, boys. I hear you're the best in the world. You're the U.S. military." I wholeheartedly agree with President Reagan that American veterans are the best in the world, but I'm a little partial. Today's active military forces and our veterans, as great as they are, have historically never asked for much from our country. Veterans don't want to be a special class of Americans. However, today, the Veterans Administration and the benefits that it provides are in a horrible state of disrepair. Over the past few years, veterans benefits have taken a backseat to a myriad of other problems facing America. Yet veterans benefits are a mere drop in the bucket compared to the financial and human cost of war. It is the military and their families who bear the brunt of war, and our nation's leaders should respect their sacrifice. For the past 16 years, under the presidencies of Republican George W. Bush and Democrat Barack Obama, this is not a partisan issue, it's an American government issue. During the past 16 years, illegal immigrants can walk across our southern border and receive nearly free health care. I cannot, as a veteran with 6 years of service, receive treatment from the VA hospital, even for knee and shoulder injuries that occurred while I was a paratrooper in the United States Army. All because I didn't enter into the VA program after I separated from service. Now, back then I was a relatively young ex-paratrooper, and I foolishly believed that I was bulletproof. Now, a few years later, as a McGee police officer, one night I found out I was not bulletproof. But that's another story for another day. Today, I don't really need VA health services. I don't really need the Veterans Administration for anything. I'm a state employee, work down at the school, I have good benefits, but that's me. What about the millions of other veterans who don't have good health benefits? They're having to pay exorbitant amounts because everyone was funneled into Obamacare. The VA is not honoring its promise. What about that 55-year-old veteran who was injured at some time not during wartime, but still can't receive the health care that he deserves? But an illegal immigrant can walk across the border and go, "Give me free health care." I think the American veteran in this regard is getting a raw deal. And you know, health care is just part of the problem. What about employment? In an ever-increasing global economy, with American jobs going overseas at record rates, employment for veterans is becoming increasingly harder to find. Now, my skill sets gained in the 2nd Infantry Division, going to things like sniper school, don't really translate into the civilian world. Heck, they don't even translate into the law enforcement world. The Veterans Department needs to be able to bridge the gap to help employ veterans when they separate from service, or military when they separate from service. You know, I've always kind of joked around and said, if I ever start a small business, I'm going to put a sign in the window that says, we accept DD-214s. And if you're in the military, you know what a DD-214 is. We accept DD-214s. I've had a bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. How can America help struggling vets who are looking for a hand up, not a handout? They can start by having Congress and state legislatures pass legislation to make veterans' preference for employment universal and mandatory. If college law schools can have racial set-asides, if college medical schools can have gender set-asides that are held legal by the Supreme Court, then shouldn't the veteran of the United States who served his country be afforded the same rights? We have veterans, or as veterans, have earned these rights by our service and by our sacrifice, and sometimes by blood. You know, as long as the Congress and the President keep spending money hand over fist, vets should raise their voices in displeasure. Let me give you some examples of some of the frivolous spending that Washington's doing today. $750,000 was spent the past few years to build a soccer field for terrorist detainees at the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center in Cuba. Congress just spent some money in California, $250,000 for a tattoo removal program. The government just foolishly spent $17 million helping Indonesian students living in Indonesia get master's degrees. $30 million was just spent to help Pakistani farmers grow more and better mangoes. I will continue to advocate, and sometimes in harsh words, for the benefits for veterans. America can do better by its veterans. Homelessness is another issue that affects American veterans blatantly in terms of disproportionality because we're veterans. America can do better than to let its former defenders languish in homelessness. We have to address the homeless veterans issue. Now I'm going to speak for just a second about a few things that's facing today's military that's not really a veterans problem, it's an American problem. And it might step on some toes, but it's the right thing for the American military. And just like a preacher, sometimes if you step on a few toes, you might be doing the right thing. Today, we're using the American military as a social and cultural experiment for the LBGT community. I have no problem with lesbians, gays, transsexuals. But the American military is no place for social and cultural experimentation. The American military spending money to pay for transgender surgery for soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines does not make our country safer. Another thing I want to speak about is allowing women into the infantry. I have a daughter. I believe in equality for women. However, I believe that women should not be put directly into combat situations. The thought of the American daughter in combat should make you tremble. Imagine infantry soldiers getting off Higgins boats in World War II, hitting the beaches at Normandy. That's no place for the American daughter. If you don't believe that, I'm sorry. The American military is better than that. I hope that our next president can reverse some of these seriously flawed policies, because our military should be a sacred ideal of American greatness. Fewer than 8% of Americans can claim the title of veteran. Many live life that borders on poverty, yet many in Congress on both sides of the aisle, the president and their supporters seem happy to waste money. Let me give you a few more examples because it really just makes me mad. $1.2 million to assess the effects of microgravity on sheep. What does that even mean? $110 million spent constructing buildings that are left empty in Afghanistan. There's no one to move into them. Or $300,000 for a cheese heritage center built in Wisconsin. It seems like Congress has no problem diminishing the quality of life for veterans by wasting money on programs that seem if they're designed for late-night TV or the science fiction channel. Like I said, fewer than 8% of Americans have stood between the wolves of the world and America's front door. Surely Congress should have some value of the American veteran. I sincerely hope that our new President-elect Donald Trump, can appoint a director of Veterans Affairs that finds solutions to the problems that veterans face on a daily basis. I hope he appoints a Secretary of Defense that will restore faith in our most cherished institution, the military. President-elect Trump has spoken with fervor about fixing broken government, about draining the swamp in Washington of worthless bureaucrats, and providing America's current and past servicemen with the services that they've earned. If he doesn't hold true to his promises, we as the American people, and especially the American veteran, should hold him accountable. I hope that President-elect Trump is a man of his word. Our veterans have earned the respect of our great nation. Veterans, as Ronald Reagan said, are truly the best America has to offer. We must remember them. Thank you for all being here today. Thank you to our veterans, and God bless America.